Prime Minister Mark Carney has just pledged the biggest boost in military spending since World War II. There is lots to delve into here. Joining me now on our City Talks panel today is John Capobianco and Erin Morrison. Now, Carney just promised to increase military spending to 2% of Canada's GDP, something that was long promised but never achieved. I mean, Stephen Harper promised that back in 2013. Right. And now he's going to increase it to 5%. Were you surprised at this, or did it feel inevitable with Donald Trump?
I would say that getting to 2% was a surprise and a shock, just given the fact that it's a lot of money that has to be committed to that to get to 2%.
By the end of this fiscal year, yes.
So I think then going to 5%, I think, was necessary for him, given the fact that he was going to face a NATO summit where the President of the United States, who has completely controlled the narrative of that summit, has already been talking about 5%. So I think the Prime Minister needed to do something or say something going into that summit so they wouldn't be criticized by the President, but also knowing that Secretary General Mark Rutte basically said all the nations should be at the 5% level. Right. So making that commitment was huge for Canada, never been done before. How he's going to get there, I think, is going to be really the question that's going to be asked, because saying it and going to the summit and being able to say, yes, I'm meeting it, how he's going to get there, what does that mean to get to the 5% is going to be a big deal. And
it's 10 years from now. So, Erin, how much of this is pure politics? I mean, presumably, Donald Trump will not be the president of the United States in 2035. Carney likely won't be the prime minister. Is this just another empty promise, like the one Stephen Harper made back in 2013, that he would increase it to 2%?
I think it's, as much as it's an empty promise, it's a moving target. Secretary Rutte was very clear that it's 5% today because Donald Trump demanded that. He said it politely. But we all heard him say it. So are we weeks or months away from Donald Trump saying, well, now it's got to be 7.5% or I'm leaving NATO. Now it's got to be 10% or I'm leaving NATO. It's also much more prescriptive than we've seen the 2% presented to us. 2% was presented to NATO allies as 2% of your GDP has to be on defense. Now it is 1.5 of the 5% is going to be for enabling technologies or technologies that are part civilian and part military. 3.5% has to be on core military spending. So we're going to see specific definitions and a moving target.
How do you think Canadians will react to this? We're talking billions and billions of dollars. There's not an endless pot. The money's coming from somewhere. Something will have to give. John?
Yeah, I think what the Prime Minister is trying to do is obviously appease a president who's very much unpredictable and erratic in some cases, and is more than happy to criticize somebody quite publicly. So I think that being able to have something where he can go and negotiate, especially because the main thing for us, the main negotiating is going to be CUSMA and how we're going to deal with that trade and the tariffs. So this is an opportunity, I think, strategically to be able to say to the president, look, I'm hearing you. We're trying to do our part to match what we can match. But I think Erin's point was valid, and that is how that 5% is going to be made up of. It's going to be infrastructure, it's going to be technology, it's going to be drones, it's going to be the Coast Guard being included, because the U.S. have their Coast Guard within their limit as well. So that's a big chunk of money. So I do think a lot of that is going to be looked at as, in some way, to say, okay, how much are we going to get there? But more importantly, to Canadians, and I think what President Trump has done for us over the last little while is made us much more patriotic. We're far more wary about ourselves and about our defense and about how we treat ourselves versus relying on somebody else. Right. So I do think Canadians want to see a strong defense, but not at the cost of living. And cost of living still is number one in a lot of Canadians' minds.
And healthcare, Erin.
It's also going to handicap us when it comes to spending on the things we really need. Canadians want hospitals, nurses, and doctors, and we're going to be told, no, I'm sorry, that money has to go for bases, soldiers, and weapons. And for Canadians who are waiting for healthcare, for Canadians who need new schools, for Canadians who are looking for relief on the cost of living, sorry, you can't have those things, because we need to find a way to spend $170 billion a year on defense, and we need to do that at a time where the Prime Minister has promised balanced operational budgets.
So the money has to come from somewhere. Where do you think it will come from?
I think it's going to come from our services. It's going to come from the things that Mark Carney has already pledged to cut. Things like healthcare operations, things like transfers to provinces and people. We could see pensions like the Canada Pension Plan cut. These are things that he talked about during the campaign. These are things that he seems to believe in.
Do you think Conservatives will support this pledge?
I think Conservatives support defense spending in general. I think in a sense that they believe that having a strong defense is a strong offense for us. And I think Pierre Poilievre has always mentioned that one of the criticisms he's had of former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is that he's made our country weaker and therefore more vulnerable, and therefore allowed people like President Trump to take advantage of us. So I think what he's been talking about, certainly during the campaign and since, is let's be stronger. So I think from that perspective, having a strong defense is going to be important. But the question becomes, where are they going to get the money? You know, our Prime Minister Mark Carney is an economist by trade, former Bank of Canada governor, former Bank of England governor. So he knows the numbers, and he's already talked about being a bit more fiscally responsible than his predecessor. So that means he wants to balance the books. How he's going to do that in light of the spending that he's going to do in defense, plus everything else, homes, housing, and other areas that he's got to focus on as well, is going to be a really big challenge for him.
It really is fascinating. Donald Trump has changed not only Canadian politics, but the world order. And I think everybody's trying to catch up. Do you think Canada, in the long run, though, will be stronger as a result of Donald Trump's threats?
No. He's changed the narrative. There was a time at which we knew, and not just we as Canada, but the global community knew, that defense meant investing now in cybersecurity. It meant investing in your own infrastructure. We had been talking about things like deep sea ports. Now they're designating defense, core defense, really as weapons. So I think that we will be ready on defense in some ways. We will not be ready for this century's defense, which is way more related to cybersecurity and the new kinds of attacks that we'll face.
And what I would say to add on to that is one of the things that the president did do is, as I mentioned earlier, was make us look a bit more inward and become a bit more patriotic, in a sense that a lot of the topics and subjects that we were talking about from a policy perspective years ago, like interprovincial trade barriers and releasing those.
And the deadline for that is, this coming long weekend, and I'm still waiting to see how that's going to happen.
I know, there's a lot of stuff going on in there, but those are the issues. And the defense, I think, that we would never have had as a #1 topic had it not been for the president. So these are the things that the president, has done that's made us much more aware of what we need to do. So those things are being escalated and expedited because of that. So I do think from that perspective, it's making us a little bit stronger, a little bit better from that area. But I think anything that we can do from a buy Canadian perspective and becoming a lot more patriotic is always a good thing, because we took the United States for granted for a long time. And I think that has changed.
We relied on them, definitely, and I agree. I think
economically
that has changed.
and on defense as well.
Definitely. All right. Well, on that note, we'll end for now. But thank you both so very much for joining us in this very important political discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.